Hello and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rich Longo, and I will be your host for today's presentation. I want to thank you for joining us for another Flycast Partners webinar. Today's webinar is about the Ivanti ITSM tool, presented by none other than Flycast Partners' very own Kyle Hamilton. Now, I could go on and on about Kyle. He's done so much throughout his career, but he's an experienced principal consultant. He's demonstrated a history of working in information technology and service industry with strong consulting professional skills in business service management, sales, network automation, ITIL processes, and ITIL service management. And the list just goes on and on. Kyle comes with an impressive background of knowledge. So he's the one that you want to have on your side to help you solve those problems within your organization. So before we get started, Kyle, let me introduce our organization, Flycast Partners. We're here to give you the most amazing IT experience, and our staff and personnel have many years of experience in the IT space, and we took all of the best ideas and collective experiences and added the best components necessary to grow and become the organization we are today. We offer best-in-class implementation services and training in IT service management, IT asset management, IT operations management, and enterprise service management with a little bit of batch processing workload automation, all using ITIL best practice. Our professional services can easily scale up or down to meet the IT needs of any organization, regardless of your size, complexity, or budgetary restrictions. We offer implementation services both on-site and remote, as well as training to help reinforce your organization's normal day-to-day operations. It's saving you both precious time and money. Please feel free to reach out to us at 844-FLYCAST, that's 844-359-2278, or visit us on our website. If you go to our website, you can look up upcoming webinars, different podcasts and blogs that we have out there, as well as training and publisher events. We encourage you to check out some of the technologies that we offer here at Flycast Partners. There's a variety of white papers and videos and data sheets that you can take a look at that may be applicable to your organizations. Feel free to share that with other folks that you work with at your organization. So I'm not going to hold this up any longer. I'm going to turn it over to the star of the hour, Mr. Kyle Hamilton. Kyle, it's all yours, sir.
Okay, thank you, Rich. And thank you, everybody, for taking time out of your day to be with us here today. So in talking about Ivanti Service Management, I wanted to talk about a little bit about how this provides you with a robust set of features that scale from those organizations that are just beginning the journey down service management and service support, and those that are very mature in those processes and have needs for enterprise grade features. So in talking about Ivanti Service Management, I'm going to talk about how this plays into aspects and organizations both large and small. In doing so, we're going to start off talking about the different roles that you might have using a tool like Ivanti Service Management. Those roles are going to come to play when you're designing and rolling out a tool like Ivanti. When it comes time to defining the groups of customers you support, the different staff that are logging in and using the tool on a daily basis. That's how you're going to define and design their interface, what they can access, what records they can see. And one of the most important roles that you have to deal with is going to be that of your customer or the end user. You can see the list of some of the out-of-the-box roles in the drop-down here that Ivanti provides out of the box to get you started, but the goal or the intention there is that you're going to make those roles very specific to your organization and based on your organizational chart and hierarchy and your specific titles so that it makes sense for your organization. Now, in talking about that customer or end user view, you have a couple of out-of-the-box roles to provide you with some examples of what that self-service or customer portal could look like. Now, it's something that provides the administrator with ease of configuration of this portal. So if you want to change the overall look and feel, you can. If you want to change the style, if you want to change the colors and the branding, of course, those are all within your control and easy to do with drag and drop interface versus having to write any kind of scripts or code. So very easy for somebody to do with minimal experience in terms of having to design websites and update HTTP code and things of that nature. But it also provides you with the ability to provide users with some enterprise class features to be able to provide them with better level of support. One being access to a dedicated knowledge base. So when users hit the self-service portal, they can immediately use that search box to start typing, their issue or their question. So as they begin typing that topic, it starts looking for that KB content, providing them suggestions on FAQs and problem articles that hopefully would allow them to, resolve their own issue. So if you want to expose knowledge directly to the end user and avoid the phone calls, avoid the emails entirely, then this is a great way to be able to provide them with some avenues to self-help and self-resolve. Another potential avenue would be through the service catalog. Here again, this is where Ivanti provides a service catalog that's got enterprise class features in terms of workflow and automation that you can provide to these requests. But it also provides roughly 80 out-of-the-box templates. So you've got a robust set of content to get even those small organizations started, providing you with requests, as you can see over on the left-hand side, related to different lines of business like human resources requests and facilities requests, along with things like IT. So you can see this could be used really across the enterprise, and there's some great examples in some of that out-of-the-box content to allow you to build off of and to build from, so that you can turn this into more of an enterprise service management tool versus just an IT service management tool, by bringing in those different lines of business and expanding on this content that's provided. Now, users can browse that using the search feature, the search boxes on the left. They can also do the same thing here that they can do from, excuse me, on that initial homepage, which is to simply type in their topic or their question. And as they begin typing in here, it's going to look through the content that they have access to tell them, if there's anything related to that particular issue, right? And in any of those areas. If there's no request related to that particular topic, you can see they may pick another topic, or they could simply launch into a generic incident if they so choose, so that if they just want to create, so let me take it off general here. If they just want to have a general incident form that you create for these users so that they can find these things easily, then you can easily set up those filters so that underneath incidents here, if I want to have that kind of encompassing, incident catches everything, that would be this generic incident. So if they don't find a template, they always have a mechanism to be able to create a ticket with the service desk for themselves. If you want to provide for something more complex, then you've got things like your HR templates as an example, where we're talking about onboarding and offboarding of employees, things that involve not only IT, but typically different lines of business like facilities and security and HR, as well as different groups within IT that typically are receiving assignments associated with things like onboarding. So this is where Ivanti provides you with a nice set of administrative tools to be able to define and design the input forms for requests like onboarding, so that you can make sure and define all the data requirements. It'll support things like costing and bill back, as you can see over on the right-hand side, and provides you with the ability to, ultimately define all of those questions that need to be asked and responded to in order to be able to process a request from start to finish. Now, there's also, you'll see in a moment, the ability to attach enterprise-grade workflow to those requests to be able to automate things like approval processes as well as the tasks and assignments that are going to be rolled out in order to fulfill those requests. Now, this is all, again, from the perspective of the self-service of that customer user. I did mention that there is the ability to create different versions, different looks and feels to that interface. This would be another example of same content provided to that end user, but a different style to that interface, and maybe even bringing in some elements, some features like the chat board that you see on the right-hand side that aren't available in the other portal. So it's important to know that you can easily configure this according to your needs. Now, if we look at service management from the perspective of somebody that's in IT, your service desk analysts, those people that are manning the front lines, that are responding to incoming requests and tickets coming through self-service. They may also be, receiving incoming emails that are creating tickets to be responded to, as well as, of course, other avenues of support that you can offer, which could be, incoming requests and tickets through the mobile applications that are available for iOS and Android, as well as being able to give users access to a brand new feature called the Ivanti Hub, which provides the customer with a desktop kiosk that they can bring up at any point to be able to access that self-service content, but without having to navigate to that self-service portal, that site, and have to authenticate, so that you can make things like those onboarding requests and the incident templates and things like that available to users all right there on their desktop. No matter how they come in, this would typically be an analyst view where they would see all of that incoming content. Now, each of these little dashboard widgets that you see laid out here are configurable as well. So this particular service desk analyst dashboard is really showing me things from an individual contributor perspective. What are my incidents? What are my tasks? And what are those things that are assigned to me, as well as to my group or to my team? And maybe even those things that you see down in the lower right-hand corner, those things that are unassigned that nobody has yet taken ownership of. So you can define what those important elements are to display on that user screen. So you can define what those important queries and records need to be. And you may even define for them different dashboard views, depending upon what you want them to work on and respond to and have access to. Some of those may be more tabular style, like we saw on the service desk analyst dashboard. This is more graphical to begin with. More of a summary view with the ability to give the user options for then drilling down into that tabular results list that we saw on the analyst dashboard, but kind of rolling everything up and summarizing it nicely, so that you can provide all the different dashboards you want and need to your users, so they can easily find and access and start responding to those incidents and requests. Now, in the case of an onboarding request, like I just talked about, somebody coming through that self-service portal, or maybe they use the Ivanti Hub on the desktop to submit it. Well, this is where I would see that incoming request on that service request dashboard. And you can see immediately up at the top, I've got some red and green indicators where it ties this back into service level management and service level targets. So you can easily track the life cycle of a request as it's submitted. Within these targets, you'll also see where you can define things like escalation points. So if there's times within the life cycle and you want others to be notified, maybe you want to change ownership, you can build that automation so that the system can process that as this request ages. Now, you'll notice just down here at the bottom a series of tabs where I can look at all of the related records. The details page here is really my journal where I can document and detail all of my activity, from internal notes to customer notes, as well as any other logs that I want to create. Behind here, you'll also see that the system will go out and automatically create a series of journal entries based on the workflow that's been defined for this particular request. So in this case, these aren't manually created entries, but entries that the system has automatically sent out based on the process. And you'll notice that as a service desk staff member, I can open up this workflow view that'll actually give me a window into what that workflow looks like. And you'll see in this case, the little red indicators here notify where I am within that process. So I can relate that back to a customer if they happen to be asking, where within that process that request is, as well as just giving me an understanding of, why these journal entries are made or what that next task needs to be. Now, part of that workflow again may involve the automation of approvals. In this case, it's based on the dollar amount of the request. So if you notice here in the workflow, I can build in these if-then evaluations, these true-false evaluations to check that dollar value of that request so that I can determine based on how much in hardware and software that user requested as to what that approval process needs to look like. Now you'll notice in this case, we just made it over the first approval, but didn't get into that second approval just by a hair, simply because within here, you'll notice the dollar value just fell just below that $4,000 threshold. So at that point, the system automatically generates that approval notification, and that user can respond via email, or they can log in and respond here, at which point you can then continue on through that workflow where it begins creating and sending out notifications for those tasks and assignments. So all of this process can be built and rolled out very easily so that whether it's an onboarding request for a new user or whether that is some sort of facilities request to have a new office, configured and set up, where that may involve multiple, tasks by electricians and plumbers alike. You can, really take this same process and apply it to virtually anything that has that kind of format to it within your environment to be able to provide that level of automation. If you want to do the expense and bill backtracking, as I mentioned earlier, then as users actually receive their notifications on these tasks, you can not only take into account the dollar value of the request, hardware and software that they might have asked for, but also the dollar value of all the labor and time and resource that it took to actually fulfill that request. So as users go in and complete those tasks to fulfill that onboarding process, then we'll see within here that as they complete those tasks, it's also going to sum and total up based upon that user's bill rate, a labor cost for fulfillment. So when you get into reporting and dashboards now, you've got some enterprise metrics around cost per request and cost per incident that you can start diving into that takes into account not only hardware and software that may be required, so you're really having to replace a piece of equipment or update a piece of software, but also how much time you're expending so that you can justify additional resources if necessary, or if you're looking to be able to provide those set of charges back to those different departments that are actually making those requests for those services. Now, you'll notice that as I go in and look at the workflow within here, as I look at things like approval processes, because of my role as that service desk analyst, I really have no ability to make any kind of changes or interact with the process at all. I have visibility into it, but I really have no ability to affect that process. Now, as a manager or administrator, somebody with a higher level of access that may be logging in and looking at that same request or looking at that same dashboard, they may have, very different, capabilities and very different view. Now, again, as logged in as administrator here, I've got several additional dashboards made available to me that those service desk analysts don't, kind of giving me the ability to look across all of those core IT service management processes from, configuration and asset management to incident, problem, change. And I'll see those reflected in the dashboards that I have up top, as well as in the little drop-down view that's available over on the left. Now, from an administrative standpoint, if I take the same service request that we were looking at here, now my ability to interact with that becomes very different. So that now as an administrator, I can actually go in and make changes and updates to this request. If I want to affect a change to the workflow and adjust it, then I can go in and alter the tasks that get created. I can change the approval process. And this, again, speaks to the ease with which not only you can set up the workflow and the automation around it, but also just to be able to define and lay out maybe the costing, if you're going to track that, or if it's not important to you, being able to suppress that information very easily, to be able to design and lay out the form. So when the users go through and actually go to make this request, they've searched this out of the catalog, you have the ability to go in and design the layout of those fields and how they're going to appear within that form, all with simple drag and drop controls to be able to add additional fields, as simple as dragging new fields into that layout, or making adjustments to those fields that are already here. Now, when it comes to the workflow, this is, again, where as an administrator, I have a little bit more than just visibility into the process. I have the ability to go in and actually define what that process is, or to make adjustments and changes to it. So you'll see here that I can go in and maybe change at this level who the first level approval needs to go to, to be able to change what user or what group or team that approval gets assigned to. If it needs to go to more than one individual, perhaps, and if it does, then we're going to require things like a majority vote. Is it first to approve? Is it unanimous vote that's required? So that you can define all the specifics around that particular approval step, again, to make it specific for your environment. But in your environment, your approval process may be different. Maybe it's more complex and you need additional approvals. So I may want to drop another approval block into this workflow and say that when it's approved at this level, maybe we're going to take it to another level after that and call that the third level of approval, and then branch this back in to the process so that once it gets that third level of approval, then we start creating the necessary tasks. So it makes it easy, not only for very simple things like tasks and email and approval creation, but as we'll notice in the toolbox that's available over on the left-hand side, there's also a more complex set of actions that are available to serve at truly more of an enterprise level, where if you're looking to reach out of Ivanti Service Management and do a synchronization with your directory server or some asset management database or repository that you may have, or some other application within your environment that may hold some valuable information. Those are actions that can be built in and incorporated directly into your workflows, up to and including things like these Ivanti automation work blocks that will allow you to kick off runbook automation so that you can actually provision users within your LDAP directory, as an example, or provision a virtual machine for a new project that's been requested, so that you can automate things not only within the Ivanti ecosystem or the Ivanti environment in terms of tasks and approvals, but be able to automate things like account creations and provisioning outside of Ivanti Service Management. Now, in addition to that, I mentioned the ability for that administrator to be able to go in and easily configure things like the user interface, the branding of the self-service portal. So you'll see within here that for that administrator, you've got a very easy to use interface for defining the workflow, as we've seen, for laying out the dashboards, similar to what you see here, for defining that branding and the layout. So you can easily go in and change the look and feel of that self-service portal to make it look like you want, all the way back to that initial landing and login page. So that if you wanted in a different layout, if you want to change the banners, if you want to change the content, the fonts, and the colors, it's very simple to go in and do that and apply it globally, or to take advantage of those different roles that we've talked about to be able to apply a different look and feel, a different set of content, a different theme altogether for different users that are logging into the tool. So it gives you a granular level of control, but makes it easy, again, for the novice that doesn't have the background in web development to be able to come in and make these kinds of updates and changes very easily. When it comes time to being able to take your service management and service support data, like your onboarding requests, your incidents and changes and the like, and you're looking to either populate that data from external sources, or maybe you're looking to share that data, a very simple to use set of tools for allowing you to get information in and out of service management. If you want to set up REST and SOAP web service connections, we've got an out-of-the-box API library for you to be able to reference, along with some out-of-the-box integration web service templates that you can see here for connecting to things like our endpoint management tool and our user workspace management tools. But you can create your own third-party integrations very easily through here, or if it's as simple as a simple, flat file import or export, being able to create those and schedule those flat file imports or CSV imports that you may need on a regular basis. So you've got an easy ability to get data in and out of service management as you need, all with a simple click versus having to write any kind of complex interface to be able to do so. Now, there's also a broad library of content that's available to allow you to get metrics and KPIs back out of the system. It really comes in several different formats. Number one, there's a robust library of reports that are available out of the box with Ivanti. On one of my dashboards here, this administrative dashboard, I've taken a hot list of about roughly 30 reports, and I've put those right here so I can get to those easily. But if I wanted to go look at the full reports list, then I could open up the report workspace, and that's where I'd see the entire library of reports that spans everything from the configuration items and assets to problems, changes, and release management. But for those things that I access on a regular and frequent basis, I might have those on a dashboard so I can get to them easily. I mentioned those key performance indicators around things like incident management and service requests, things like mean time to repair, average response time, average resolution time, so that you can report on your current performance, as well as define within the report and within the system, really, the targets that you have for yourself, so that you can track progress towards a goal or towards a target that you're shooting for. To be able to break down, compliance to things like service level targets. How often are you meeting or exceeding or breaching those service level agreements? And then getting into things like the financial aspects. How much does it cost on average to onboard an employee? How much does it cost us to take that average ticket that user phones in? and even to be able to get down further, to be able to break it down to see how much it takes to, how much it costs to resolve that self-service ticket versus the email ticket versus the ticket that comes in via the phone. So that you've got some good operational metrics and financial metrics to be able to manage your processes that are out of the box. But you can also create additional reports, add reports to that library as well. Now you can also get, of course, a lot of good information right back out of your dashboards as well. So not only do these, look nice from, just a simple dashboard perspective, but you can also give users the ability to export data directly out of dashboards and be able to pull reports and data out of these that they may need and want. So another way for them to get, access to some quick information and data they might want to get to. The third would be our extraction. An extraction is not only Ivanti Service Management reporting tool, but an Ivanti reporting tool, as well as a third-party reporting tool. So within here, you'll see a series of connectors that are built out here for all the Ivanti products. If you're using Ivanti Endpoint Management, if you're using their security tools, or if you're using Identity Director, this same extraction dashboard and reporting engine sits on top of all of these applications to give you a unified platform to be able to report across, the Ivanti tool set. So you could easily, if you're using Endpoint, be able to go in and, get that computer OS breakdown. If you're using it, of course, for something like Ivanti Service Management, which of course represented here, then it allows me to get into incident management stats and problem and change management stats. So I can get to a dashboard and extraction very similar to what we saw in the dashboard, inside of Ivanti, so that I can, pull out those KPIs here, but I've got a much easier interface for building and exposing this not only to staff, but also to executives and management that may want a metrics view, but they may want as well more of the cost breakdown and analysis. So again, this is where I can have dashboards built for all types of purposes, whether I just want, a breakdown of incidents by category, whether I want to report on SLA trends and performance. This is, again, a host of out-of-the-box dashboards that you have with extraction. But this is also a very easy and simple tool to allow users to go in and build new dashboards based on their needs, so that if there's not something out of the box that exists, they still have an easy path. They can build that out as a report in Ivanti, or they can come in here and start building out their own dashboard. There's different forms and templates that are available to them, depending upon what and how much content they want to display. So you can see some of these just break down the sections of that report or that dashboard that are going to display, so they can pick the appropriate template, and then they can start grabbing their elements that they want. So up here, I'm looking at the last 30 days of incidents. So I can start taking some of these, time-based elements for that last 30-day period and dropping those onto my dashboard, and it's going to start breaking that down by day. And then I can go in and maybe take a group component where I want to see those incidents broken down by the assignee. And maybe we'll take a scorecard here where I want to take, let's take this, let's take average impact cost. Now, as I go through and I drop these elements on my dashboard, you'll see they immediately query the database and bring back results. So I'm working live with data. In some cases, I might not even need to save this. I might just need a number, or want to be able to quickly export this data, which a lot of users do. So I can just, just as easily hit export and kick out an HTML screenshot of it, or if I want to export that CSV or Excel file or XML file, I can easily get the data out. Otherwise, if it's something I want to use on a regular basis, then I can simply save my dashboard, back to that library so that I have this available to access upon return, and the ability to share it with others, if this is something that I want to add to a general library. So you've got an easy ability to be able to access the data that you need to build the dashboards and reports, or to expose this again directly to the executives that may need, their needs may change on a day-to-day and week-to-week basis. So this would give them a direct interface where not only, again, would they have the ability to report on service management metrics, but they may be focused on things of security related, coming out of endpoint, as well as other areas. So if I look under here, actually it's gonna be under Neo, an executive dashboard. Now this is again focused on maybe software licensing and risk and compliance type data, where your exposure is, all the way to this cyber dashboard, which shows you extraction's ability not only to bring in data from Ivanti's solutions, but also to be able to pull from third-party apps like SCCM, like McAfee antivirus, like SolarWinds, so that you can truly use extraction not only as a great tool to provide you with reports and metrics on your service management and support processes, but to be able to provide that one single pane of glass for managers and executives that provide data from throughout the enterprise. So with that, and unless there's any other questions, Rich, I will summarize it with the fact that Ivanti again provides, I think, hopefully I've shown a simple set of tools to be able to make changes to the interface, to be able to build the workflow, to be able to consume and share data, but also provides an enterprise set of capabilities for those larger environments that are looking to mature in their processes, as well as take advantage of those 13 out-of-the-box idle processes like change management and release management, as well as the enterprise class reporting tools that you have to get great metrics, that this should be on anybody's short list of service management tools to take a look at. Back to you, Rich.
All right. Well, I appreciate you taking your time out to share this information with us today, Kyle. Believe it or not, as much as I've been learning about this particular tool, I actually learned a couple things today. So I thank you, and I hope the audience did too. Audience, I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy day to join us, and we look forward to seeing you on our next webinar coming up. Thanks again, Kyle.
You're welcome. Bye, everybody.
All right. In our next webinar, we'll see you then.